Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
And today we're talking about The Punisher. Released in 2004, directed by Jonathan Hensleigh, written by Jonathan Hensleigh and Michael France, and starring Thomas Jane, John Travolta, Rebecca Romijn, Will Patton, Ben Foster, Kevin Nash, somebody else I feel like I'm forgetting.
Kevin Nash. Is he the guy that was at the very beginning of the movie?
No, he is the Russian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, a wrestler.
Wrestler Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Who was the guy at the beginning?
The guy,
What's
the
his
son?
name? No, his friend.
The guy who sets up the deal, Mickey?
Yes, Mickey.
He is played by Eddie, Jemison.
He looks very familiar to me.
He's in the Oceans movies, Oceans 11, Oceans 12, and whatnot.
Okay.
He was also in... Nope, that's it. When you go to IMDb... he's been in other stuff. But you go to IMDb...
That's it.
That's it. You go to IMDb and it says known for, and it gives you the top 4 movies. It's Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, The Punisher. Okay. So, that was probably his biggest roles to date, perhaps. He was in War Dogs. We talked about, you'd seen that movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a lot of TV shows. CSI Miami. The Informant, that was a good movie with Matt Damon. He was in that.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, that was good. So, Eddie Jemison. Ocean's movies. Ocean's trilogy. But anyway, this movie was released in 2004, and I believe the first time I saw this movie, John, I saw it with you in the theater.
You're correct.
Yep.
That is right. And do you remember what you thought about it?
I remember liking it. Or at least
let's point out that in 2004, there were not a lot of superhero movies out.
No, this was at the beginning of the comic book superhero boom, if you will. It was a year after X-Men 2, the same year as Spider-Man 2. I actually wanted to look up which one came out first. I forgot. 2 years after Spider-Man 1. So, yeah, not very many comic book movies up to this point. Daredevil had come out in 2003, so they were starting to come out, or at least Marvel movies.
Yeah, when did Hulk come out? 4?
The first Hulk came out, it was probably around there, 2003, 2004, something like that.
Right. It was
2003. Yeah, it was 2003. So yeah, Marvel was starting to kind of, they must have been, I don't know if they had already sold off the movie rights to some of their property, or if they were starting to just sell it off so that they could get some movies. This was a Lionsgate movie.
I also noticed it had the Marvel intro.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the movie, even if it was made at a different studio, even if it wasn't Marvel Studios, because Marvel Studios at the time didn't exist yet.
Right.
I think that was their production logo,
I couldn't remember when that started. It wasn't in the X-Men movies, was it? Or at least it wasn't in the first and second one.
I don't recall it being in the first or second one. It might have been.
But then again, like we were saying, this came out X2 came out the year before this. So,
2003. Yeah.
And Spider-Man 2 had the Marvel
intro.
Yeah.
I'd actually be curious to go back and just watch the beginnings of those movies to see which one was the first one. Because I kind of want to say I remember Hulk having it, but it was like green. It was shaded green or whatever.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that.
That'd be weird if that was the first one, Hulk, and it was green, they were trying to make it different, but it was the first time anyone had ever seen it.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if it was X-Men 2, because I can't remember if X-Men 2 had it or not. So right. I could see X-Men coming out, Spider-Man coming out, doing both of those doing really well, and them being like, well, we need to let's come up with a cool logo for our movies.
Right. And I'm pretty sure I remember Spider-Man 2 having it, and didn't it have, was that the one that had scenes from the original Spider-Man movie in that, or am I just thinking of the intro?
You're just thinking of the opening credits, I think. in the opening credits there
I mean,
was.
I know that it's in the opening, but credits, but it wasn't in the Marvel logo for that.
Not that I recall, but I
Okay,
could be wrong.
I don't know.
What did you? How do you remember what you felt or how
Oh
you
yeah,
felt
I
about
thought
it?
it was a great movie.
Yeah, you liked it.
Yeah.
I remember liking it too, and I bought it on DVD. I bought the extended cut, which I've never actually watched. I thought about watching that today, but I don't honestly think I've seen this movie in its entirety since I saw it in theaters.
I
So
haven't.
yeah, so I was like, well, if I watch the extended cut, I actually probably won't know what the additional scenes were because I won't be able to remember. I remember the big moments. I remember like the Russian fight, and I remember John Travolta being in the movie, and I remember kind of the beginning with his family and everything. But I wasn't gonna remember everything, so I was like,
The
eh.
the
So I
only
watched the
stuff
theatrical version.
I gotcha. The only thing I truly remembered was the family massacre and the ripping out of the piercings.
Right, I actually forgot Ben Foster was even in this movie until he shows up. I was like, oh yeah. And so once I saw him, I remembered the torture scene, but I completely forgot about that because I didn't even remember him being in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't remember the torture scene until it like
Showed up.
yeah,
And you're
and
like,
then I was
oh,
like,
right.
okay, I remember this now.
Yeah.
And I actually watched this with 3 of my kids. It's a little dark, but nothing. I don't think unreasonable.
Right. I feel like I read some trivia and about the movie and about how there was some violence that they had to like actually cut out because the MPAA said it was too much. And I was like, it's kind of crazy how. I mean, this was 16 years ago, but to today's standards, it feels like a fairly tame R-rated film.
Right, right.
I feel like there are plenty of movies out now with an R rating that have way worse violence.
Well, I wonder too if it got the R because of just the mercenary guy. Just there's just a lot of gun violence, and I'm wondering if that's kind of what made them do it.
Maybe, I don't know.
Like, there's gun violence in movies, but this is like a hero that's all about guns and
Right. He's very much he's really an anti-hero.
correct.
He's he's a Marvel Comics character. I think if I'm not mistaken, he first showed up in the Amazing Spider-Man comics.
Yeah, I think you're right. He was like a kind of neutral character. He wasn't a good guy, obviously,
But he wasn't like the bad guy of the comic.
right. I think he was the bad guy, but it turned out that he was good, like in a sense. So you kind of had to compromise there.
Right.
I've never read it, but it just seems like that's kind of what I remember.
Yeah, I haven't read it either, but he has. I remember having like a Punisher action figure, which looking back on that, it's kind of funny to have. I mean, because he was a comic book character and he was on. I remember he was on the Spider-Man animated series at least for an episode or two. So I had an action figure of him, but looking back on it, it's kind of weird to have an action figure of a guy who just like murders criminals.
I have
and
an
whatnot.
action figure of him still, I think.
Do you?
He had like a pop cap.
Oh, really?
Clicker on the back, so you could put like caps in his arm or something and like pull it and they would pop and make.
I had a
yeah.
RoboCop action figure that had that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that had like you could put caps in the arm and you'd pull back on it and it would make like a gun, sound effect. But that's cool. The Punisher action figure I had, they made like a series of action figures. This had to have been like early 90s, I guess. I don't think it was late 80s. My guess would be like 90, 91, maybe something like that. But anyway, there was a series of Marvel figures that they made that came with these like gray boxes that had buttons on them in it. So it said like lines. And I remember
yeah.
They were real bulky. Like looked really stupid to actually have it on the action figure.
Those were hard to find when I started collecting.
Oh, really? I had two of them. I had Punisher and the Hulk. And Hulk obviously said like Hulk smash. But I remember the Punisher, the only one I remember him saying was "Vengeance is mine," but he said it very sing-songy. It was like, vengeance is mine. It was like really weird. But I remember
I had if we're talking about the same series, I had Cyclops.
Oh, cool.
And I don't remember what he said, but I remember, I started getting figures around 92, 93.
Mm-hmm.
And those were kind of a series that wasn't being produced anymore.
Gotcha.
So they were, I remember those were
hard to find,
and I found the Cyclops, like, I think at a Kmart.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is amazing. I got it. I think that's the only one I had.
That's awesome. I don't remember getting the Punisher one, but I do remember the Hulk figure. I actually asked Santa for it. So that was like the gift I got
Santa
from
brought
Santa.
it for you?
Yeah, yep,
wow.
Sure did.
Santa's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's always come through, that Santa. Actually, that's not true. I think that same year. So it might have been 89, because that's when Back to the Future 2 came out, right? Because I'm pretty sure I asked for the talking Incredible Hulk figure and shoes that could tie themselves, because I had seen that in Back to the Future Part 2. And I got the Hulk figure, didn't get the shoes. So I was a little disappointed about that. But
Santa obviously cannot time travel.
He's like, kid, those don't come out till 2015.
Which they didn't.
That's true, actually, yeah.
So,
and I still don't have them. They were too expensive. Santa wouldn't get them for me that year either, so. So anyway, so I hadn't seen this movie in like 15 years, so I was actually a little nervous going into it that I wasn't going to like it, because I remember liking it, seeing it in the theater.
Right.
And I was a little nervous that it was gonna, I don't know, it was just not gonna age well. But for the most part, I think it did. I think it is actually a pretty decent Punisher movie.
I agree. I don't know if I liked it as much as I did in the theater, but it's still held up, like you said, pretty well. And I think one of the strongest aspects of the movie is Thomas Jane.
For sure.
He's just great.
He is really good. Did you watch the Daredevil Netflix show?
No. I remember hearing that it was... Well, I remember hearing that Punisher in the Daredevil... Well, that's what we're talking about. Because he did have the spinoff. I remember hearing that, who plays him is the guy from Walking Dead.
John Bernthal.
Yeah, and I loved him in Walking Dead.
Yeah. And he's amazing as the Punisher on Daredevil. I watched the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, and then I just kind of stopped. I really like the show, and I want to keep watching it, but it's one of those things where I think season 3 takes place after Defenders, and I feel like I got to watch Defenders first, but I don't want to watch Defenders until I watch Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and all that stuff, and I just haven't had the time to watch those. I've been watching other stuff. So I haven't actually seen the 3rd season of Daredevil, which I don't think he's in, but I also have not seen the Punisher show that was kind of the spin-off of Daredevil. But I did watch Daredevil season 2, and I remember thinking while I was watching it, like, John Bernthal is probably the best Frank Castle we've ever had. Mm-hmm. But rewatching this movie, Thomas Jane is very good. Like, he's awesome. a great choice for Frank Castle.
Yeah. What else has he been in?
Thomas Jane?
Yeah.
The Mist. Remember him in The Mist?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
He's been in a lot of stuff, but yeah. One of the trivia facts that I looked up about this movie is this was the second time, maybe even the third time, but at least the second time that John Travolta and Thomas Jane did a movie together, even though in the first movie they did together, they never had any scenes because he was in the prison in Face Off. So his scenes were all with Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
But I totally forgot Thomas Jane was in Face Off as well.
I have not seen Face Off.
You've never seen Face Off?
I've never seen Face Off.
That blows my mind.
But I did see a funny Facebook post recently.
About Face Off?
Yeah. And it was John Travolta.
Uh-huh.
And it said, glad to see Nicolas Cage is wearing a mask in public.
All right. I can't believe you haven't seen Face Off. We may have to do an episode on Face Off because that movie's incredible. Although, since you've never seen it, I don't know how you'll feel about it watching it now. But I wish you could have seen it back in '97 or whatever it was when it came out, because that movie's amazing. You might still like it. You might be able to enjoy it enough because it is over the top. I mean, it's Nicolas Cage and John Travolta.
Right.
So
it's like 90s action film.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you probably will dig it. I'd actually be very disappointed if you didn't like it, but yeah, that's a great movie. Anyway, so this was at least the second movie Thomas Jane and John Travolta did together, even though Thomas Jane had a very small role in Face Off and had no scenes with John Travolta. That was the point of that story.
Gotcha.
So jumping into the beginning of the movie, Thomas Jane is an undercover FBI agent, I think. I was a little confused at first. I wasn't sure if he was an undercover cop for the Tampa police or if he was an FBI agent.
Right.
I believe he was an FBI agent.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I thought, like, I remembered that I thought the opening scene, or at least the beginning of the movie, was the beach and the family massacre.
Right.
So I was glad to see that there was some context as to why that happened, because I didn't remember.
I didn't remember it either. I didn't remember him being an undercover person, and I didn't remember that Howard Saint, John Travolta's character, his son was there and got killed.
Right.
Like
I loved the reveal too of him being undercover when he like comes out of the body bag. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I remember thinking this is a really dangerous undercover operation where they have him getting shot. I mean, obviously the guy was using blanks and they were using like squibs, I guess, but it was still like that could have gone wrong. And
I'm pretty sure everyone that was there knew because I thought about that too, and I was like, could have gone wrong, but I'm pretty sure everyone there knew and was, briefed
part of the plan
again that this guy is part of us.
Yeah. But still, I mean, the Howard Saint's son died because he got shot, but I think he got shot by the bad guys that were there. So I mean, it's possible. I mean, real bullets were flying around, but also the bad guys started shooting real guns. Do all the cops have blanks, or was it just that one cop? Was he just the useless one? I assume it's just that one. He was the one, he knew ahead of time that he was going to be the one shooting at Frank Castle and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the note I wrote about the very beginning of the movie is Thomas Jane's accent in the beginning seems to kind of change a little bit. When I first heard it, I was like, okay, sounds kind of German. And then he kept talking. I was like, is it South African? And then I was like, oh, and then his name was Otto Krieg or something. I was like, okay, maybe I guess he's trying to be German. And then and so it kind of fluctuated a little bit in the beginning, I thought. But
the best part was I didn't even know it was Thomas Jane. So I was fooled until he came out of the body bag.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
You didn't even know it was him for that whole scene?
That whole scene.
Wow. That is pretty good, I guess. Do you think it's weird that this movie takes place in Florida? Like, when I think of The Punisher, I guess maybe it's because I think of most Marvel comics taking place in New York City.
New York.
Yeah, I always feel like Punisher's a New York City character, but he's in Tampa, Florida for this film.
Right.
Not to say that he's always in Tampa, Florida. I think at the end of the movie he probably is he's gonna be kind of like a
was that the Golden Gate Bridge?
A drift. Actually, well, I wasn't paying attention, so I don't know. I mean, I was paying attention, but wasn't paying attention to the bridge. But I assume he's gonna be a drifter, kind of going from town to town, righting wrongs and punishing the bad guys.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, I just remember writing that down in the beginning of the movie. I was like, Tampa, Florida. I was like, that's kind of a weird place to have a Punisher movie.
Yeah.
To me.
No, you're right. Like, I actually had a Punisher Nintendo game now that just came back to my mind. Like for the NES.
Oh, wow. And it took place in Tampa?
Not necessarily. It just took place in a downtown city, which resembled New York. Like, there's just city buildings everywhere and street crime, thugs and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I liked that game. It was a good game. Punisher was, like you were saying earlier, he didn't seem like a character, and I didn't, read any of the comics, or he didn't have his own cartoon show or anything like that, but he was a pretty well-known character for the universe.
I agree. I never read any Punisher comics either, and like you said, I don't think he had his own show. So I knew of him through. I mean, like I think he was on Spider-Man, but like I guess I just knew of him from like the trading cards,
Right,
and stuff like that. But yeah, because he's a character that I feel like I've always known about, but yeah, I don't really know why I know of
right.
him.
And not only did you know about him, but like I knew that he didn't have any superpowers,
Right.
and he used guns,
Right.
and he was called the Punisher because he punished bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was all known to me. Did you ever see the original Tick cartoon?
Yeah, I did. I don't remember it super well, but I did used to watch it. Yeah.
So there was a character in that spoofed the Punisher,
Punisher?
as well. Yeah,
Do you remember what his name was?
probably something ridiculous.
I'm sure it
But
was. Yes.
I remember in the first episode, he runs out of bullets, and he starts bawling. He was like this gigantically buff guy that's just all about guns, and yeah, he just started crying like a baby. It was
That's
pretty
awesome.
funny.
That's another show that I actually wouldn't mind going back and rewatching because I'm sure it's really funny.
Yeah, and did you see? Was it Netflix that did?
Amazon. Yeah.
Did you watch that?
No,
So
I
I saw
didn't.
the first episode of that, and I wanted to watch more, and I haven't yet. But that first episode was awesome. So
I need to watch it. I
Yeah, I
definitely
want
need
to
to
check
watch
it
it.
out.
It's just so much TV now. It's like I can't keep up with everything.
Right.
Um.
TV and adulting.
TV and adulting. Plus, I've actually been reading a lot lately. I've been usually when I have free time, I've been trying to just read more than
What are you
sit down
reading?
and watch the TV. Right now, I'm actually rereading a book by Brandon Sanderson called The Way of Kings. It's he's got the 4th book coming out in November. So, and I think they're really good, and I'm trying to get my sister into it. So she and I are reading the first book at the same time, kind of book clubbing it, I guess you could say. And then next month we'll read the 2nd book, and the next month we'll read the 3rd book, and then November the 4th
Is
book
it
comes out.
high fantasy?
Yeah, it's like an epic fantasy. High fantasy. I don't. What is your definition of high fantasy again?
Like Lord of the Rings?
It's not. I mean, it's got a very rich, detailed kind of history, and I mean, every book is over 1,000 pages.
Uh-huh.
But there's not like dragons in it and stuff like that. There's swords. I wouldn't necessarily even call it medieval fantasy, but maybe it could be kind of considered that. I don't know.
Is there like magic or elves or anything?
There are not elves. It doesn't have any of like the common fantasy trope characters. Like there's not dwarves or elves or orcs or something like that. But there are different races and there are different creatures and things like that. But it's not like in the
like
typical,
humanoids.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say that's probably high fantasy then.
Yeah, probably.
If it's not like King Arthur.
Right. No, it's not King Arthur. Or not like that.
Yeah, if it goes more magical than that, I'd say it's probably high fantasy.
It's pretty cool. I think you'd dig it if you have the time to read it because they're just huge books.
It still baffles me that you finally got into that genre.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it's just exciting to hear you like say, "Yeah, I'm reading this high fantasy book." And granted, you've been
for the second time.
Yeah, and granted, you've been into the genre for many years now, but it still feels kind of new to me to hear you say that. Just even bring that stuff up. I thought today, actually, I believe it was, about a book that I want to read, and that's The Langoliers.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a novella, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the 4 Past Midnight book.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one of. I think there's 4 of them in that book. Secret Window is in there too. I think it's Secret Garden, Secret Window is the name of the book or something like that. But yeah, Langoliers is the first of that book. I haven't read it yet. No.
Okay. Did you ever watch the miniseries?
Nope.
So that miniseries gave me my first panic attack.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I've wanted to watch it. I think I even own it digitally. on Vudu, but I wanted to read the book first before I watched it, so I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Anyway, back to Punisher.
I was getting ready. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Getting a little sidetracked this episode, but so Frank Castle, he doesn't actually kill the kid. It's just the kid. And he's not a kid. He's probably 20 somethings. Yeah, his son. But he's there at the whole exchange, and the kid is killed. So Howard Saint.
He's also kind of the leader of the.
He's the one behind it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
They figure out that Otto Krieg was actually undercover agent Frank Castle, and they figure out that he's in Puerto Rico doing a family reunion before they move to London, I guess is what he tells his kid.
Right.
So they go down there, and his wife, or Howard Saint's wife, she's pretty brutal. She tells him not to just kill Frank Castle, but to kill his whole family. So that's pretty rough. So they go down there and they do that. I forgot too, like I remember that they came down there and killed his family, but I forgot that they run over his wife and son with a truck.
I did too. It was pretty hard to watch.
Yeah.
Especially when he finds them. Like when he's running up there and kind of cradles them.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty... That, I'm assuming helped contribute to the R rating.
I'm probably... Thomas Jane does a great job in that scene, though. You can definitely... He, does a great job showing the emotion of the, of finding his wife and son that way and everything. However, I do have a note about them killing Frank Castle. They find him, they beat him up a little bit, which I totally understand, and then they drag him to the end of the pier, and he's like literally, point blank range, shoots him in the chest.
Right.
It looks like he shoots him pretty much directly in the heart, and he doesn't die from that. So I just, the other thing I thought was kind of crazy was Howard Saint kills his son's bodyguard. I assume it was his bodyguard. He kills his son's bodyguard. He says you kind of make him he makes Mick think that he's going to kill him.
Right.
He's like, the person responsible for my son's death has to die. And then he turns the gun on the bodyguard and he shoots that guy 3 times. Why wouldn't they shoot Thomas Jane more than just once in the chest? And I realize that they're blowing him up. They pour the gasoline and they set it on fire. But you'd think they would have shot Thomas Jane, or they would have shot Frank Castle like multiple times, or even in the head or something. It's obviously, I know
they were beating him up because, and I actually mentioned this to my daughter, like when we were watching it. I was like, they're torturing him, like they want him to suffer. So yeah, even though they do shoot him point blank, kind of in the chest,
they want to prolong
that would
his
initially kill him. It's like, let's make him burn and drown and everything.
I got you. I can see that. It's just one of those movie tropes, I guess, where they assume the person is dead, and then obviously they're not. And obviously, if they had killed Frank Castle, we wouldn't have a movie. So he had to live. I get that. But I just thought it was kind of... But the way you described it, you're right. I think you're right. I think they would be...
It probably would have been better if they'd shot him like in the shoulder or something.
Right,
like
rather
shoulder,
than right in the
leg,
chest.
Like, yeah, exactly.
I mean, they could have... I mean, they did... I thought that was kind of a cool scene, too, where he sees... he's cradling his wife and son, and then the truck starts driving towards him, and he's shooting at them with the shotgun, and he gets shot a couple times, like in the leg and whatnot, and he's still trying to
and he's
take him down.
struggling, and you just see the strength of, I know I'm going to die, because you guys are walking up to me right now, but I'm going to avenge my family as much as I can, and I'm going to point a shotgun right at you as you're walking. All 4 of you are walking towards me. Unfortunately, it was empty. Yeah. But it just showed a lot of strength.
Absolutely. So I thought that was a cool scene. But yeah, I take back my note. I guess you're right. I think they would have been probably trying to make him suffer,
Yeah.
or make him have like a slow death rather than.
But I
a quick
agree with you.
bullet
I
to the
think
head.
it would have been better if they had not shot him in the chest, kind of to
Right.
show, like, deliberately, we're not going to kill you. We're going to shoot you in the shoulder.
Right.
And then we're going to pour gasoline all over you. But that's, minor.
What'd you think about the son bringing the shirt to him? Like having it be kind of almost like a.
It's an interesting shirt for his son to pick out. And he mentions that, I think.
Yeah, he's like, it's a little intense.
Yeah.
But he does say it's supposed to, like, ward off evil spirits or something. I kind of liked
that. I missed that.
I think, like, I mean, in the first Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren, we didn't get a skull shirt at all. And so, I don't know if in the comics, I don't think in the comics he was given that shirt by his son or anything. I think it was just a symbol that he kind of created. Like, this was his, his costume. Because even in the comics, he had the white gloves and the white boots and everything. It was very much a costume. So I thought it was kind of cool that they kind of gave the shirt like an origin, and there was a reason for him wearing it other than just to, be scary, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they could have done it that way, and it work out for a revenge purpose of him, just not just being scary to bad guys, but
like, this is my symbol now.
Yeah, I'm coming after you guys.
Yeah.
But no, at the same time I agree. Like, it gave major reason for him wearing it as a memory of his son.
Right. So I thought that was cool. I liked the logo. I thought that it looks very I think the original comic logo is a little bit more I don't know if sleek is the right word, but it doesn't look quite as like in this logo
faded.
It doesn't look faded. It's very bright in the comics, but it also is like it's a little bit more simple, I think, the design. It's just like a circle with the eyes, and then like goes kind of down rectangular for the teeth of the skull or whatever. And this one has a little bit more of a design to it, which I thought looked cool though, especially when it was faded on his shirt and everything.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe exactly, but
and later on in the movie it's like almost spray painted.
Yeah, he kind of like in the very final battle scene, if you will, of the movie, he's like, I don't know if he put it on the vest or if he kind of just took the design and painted it on the vest, because he's wearing like a bulletproof vest. He's not wearing a t-shirt anymore. He doesn't have the sleeves and stuff. So I think I'll be honest, I was a little distracted towards the end of the movie, and remember in the Spider-Man episode where I was talking about pausing movies and taking a long time to get through it? Yeah, that kind of happened today watching this. So I paused it a few times and got up and did stuff. So I might have missed. I don't recall seeing what he did, if he spray painted it or if he did some sort of transfer type thing. I feel like he did. I feel like he kind of spray painted it or something, but yeah.
I don't remember either. So, but it looks like it's spray paint.
It does.
And what's cool is that, regardless of how he did it, he took, he just transferred that symbol over.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that.
And it was nice just having a Punisher movie where he actually has
exactly
the skull shirt.
This felt like, like we were talking about, I didn't read the comics, but knowing what I did about the Punisher before seeing this movie and then going to go see this movie and then rewatching it tonight, like, it felt like we got the Punisher in a movie.
Yeah. I agree.
So I was pretty happy about that. John Travolta, what do you think?
I liked him as Howard Sane. I don't think that there's only like one time in the movie where I was kind of. It's not his acting, I don't think, that I didn't like. I think it was really just the kind of the writing, and it was when he was confronting his wife. Frank Castle had been leaving clues to make Howard think that his wife was having an affair with his right hand man Quentin, played by Will Patton, and just their exchange didn't feel totally real. I don't know, but for the most part, I thought he did a great job, and I liked John Travolta is one of those guys. I think I was thinking about this earlier while I was watching the movie. I was like, I like watching John Travolta, but he doesn't always pick the best movies, like especially lately. His career, I think, has had a lot of highs and lows. You know, he in the beginning of his career, he had Grease and Saturday Night Fever, and he was a big movie star, and then it started going downhill, and then he did Pulp Fiction and kind of had like a renaissance and did Face Off and Broken Arrow, and I was thinking maybe that's why I kind of like watching John Travolta's, because it's almost like nostalgic, because I like those 90s movies he put out.
Right.
And then he started to kind of go down again, and I like he's done a lot of straight to video type. I mean, do they even call it that anymore? Straight to video? I guess it's like straight to streaming.
But right, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It's not. And so I feel like straight to streaming can be great, but straight to video still has like that negative connotation. And so that's what I feel like those are the movies he's been making lately, are straight to video.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I haven't seen anything that he's done since probably Swordfish.
Oh, wow. I was actually trying to think of like the last movie I saw him in. And
actually, did this come out after Swordfish?
I think that's a good question. I think it did come out after Swordfish.
Okay. Well, then this was the last John. I did see what was it? Wild Hogs?
Yes, Wild Hogs. That Disney or was it Disney? Something. Yeah, it was I saw Wild Hogs too. This came out after Swordfish. Swordfish was 2001.
Okay.
And then he's done a couple. I've seen a few things of his since then. But like the last movie of his that I saw, I think was Savages. Oh, I forgot. Oh no, I saw Gotti in the theater, which was really bad. But he did do American Crime Story. He played Robert Shapiro on the People versus O.J. Simpson, and that was a really good miniseries. But movie-wise, he hasn't really done anything of note, I guess you could say, since From Paris with Love, which was just, in my opinion, an okay movie. The Taking of Pelham 123, which was in 2009. He did a Western in 2016 that I wanted to see called In a Valley of Violence, but I don't know if that was any good, but I did want to see that. But yeah, he's currently, right now, he's on a show with Kevin Hart on Quibi, which I have not checked out Quibi. I have not seen any of those shows. I kind of have a...
What is Quibi?
Quibi is a streaming service, but I believe it's only available on phones. And the whole thing with Quibi is their episodes are 10 minutes or less, according to the ads. Their episodes are 10 minutes or less, and they're designed to be watched on a phone. So you can watch it holding it this way, or holding it vertical or holding it horizontal. And there's a, I don't know, it leaves kind of a bad taste in my mouth I don't want that to be the future of cinema.
I get you. I agree.
I even saw something I saw an ad on IMDb, I think, for something directed by Damien Chazelle, who's the director of Whiplash and La La Land, and it was called Vertical Cinema, and it was all about how it was shot on an iPhone.
I saw that.
And I was like, I don't want
I didn't see the movie.
Vertical.
I saw the
ad.
Yeah. And I remember thinking the same thing. Like, I was like, it looks professional.
Right.
And it looks, kind of thrilling, but I was thinking the same thing. I was like, vertical, though. Like,
yeah.
You're missing why do you need the headspace and you're missing... It's not the way the human eye perceives things. We see things at a horizontal...
with peripheral vision and everything. Yeah.
So...
I don't know. I mean, I wonder about, when movies first were being released in theaters, in the olden days, they were 4:3. They were square. And once the invention of television came out, movie studios or whoever had decided that they needed something to make them separate from watching TV at home. And that's when they adopted the rectangular 16 by 9
Right.
Screens and whatnot. And so I wonder if, like, back then people were like, I don't want to why would we want to watch rectangular movies? Like, I don't know. I wonder if people had a reaction to it that way. But
I think the peripheral thing is something that is used as a reason for why it's shot like that.
Right.
And I think the vertical thing, if it does take off, quote unquote, I think will be a fad, and hopefully, but that's my guess.
Yeah, the other thing is, like, I like everybody, I watch stuff on my phone, but it's usually kind of a last resort. I would much rather watch something on my TV, than on my phone. And Quibi, like I said, I believe is only on phones. Maybe it's on iPads too, or tablets, but I don't think you can watch it on, like, your Roku TV or Apple TV or whatever you've got. And so I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the idea.
Well, even if I do watch something on my phone, like on YouTube, I turn my phone sideways.
Right. And so Quibi is designed, like I said, you can watch it either way. But that's the other thing I don't like. I don't like the idea of having to shoot things so that way you can crop off the sides and still see everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they basically have to frame their shot so that it could be viewed vertically.
That's ridiculous.
Right, and that seems crazy to me. So, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched anything on Quibi. Maybe the shows are good, but I kind of, like I said, the idea of it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, so I haven't checked it out. That's just my 2 cents. I'm
with you.
I sound like an old man, maybe. I don't want to go with technology, but I'm the type of person
you are 36.
37 now.
I was when it was a couple days ago.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago.
I missed it. I'm so sorry. I knew it was coming up. Oh,
it's all right.
Belated happy birthday, man.
Thanks, man.
I'm a terrible friend.
No, you're fine.
Wait a minute. I think you missed my birthday too.
I might have,
because I think I remember you saying the same thing verbatim.
A couple days later,
that you were a terrible friend.
So we're even now.
We're even.
But anyway, I was just gonna say I would much prefer my preferred method of watching movies is in the theater. So I would much rather. I mean, if you've got the option of watching something on a big screen versus your phone, I would choose the big screen every time.
And I think most people would too. And but eventually, man, our entire wall is going to be a screen.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that. I mean, we've already got 70-inch televisions.
Right.
And I remember I just bought a 65.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about how when I got, my 40-inch back in the day, like, that was a very large television.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd say in the next 5 years, we're going to have 120-inch. If not, I mean, eventually, like I said, we're going to have walls.
Right.
That.
They're just going to install the TVs, like, in the.
Yeah, it's going to be like your wallpaper, basically.
Right.
Is going to be a screen. So, and it's going to be pretty cool because you're going to literally be able to put on, like, a beach scene. And it's just going to be your wall. It's going to be like you're at the beach.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought of you, actually, in your new TV while I was watching this movie, because I know your 65-inch TV also acts as your computer monitor, correct?
Correct.
And so the first time we see Dave in this movie, played by the excellent Ben Foster, he's playing a video game, and and the camera starts on him, and he's, talking smack or whatever against whoever he's playing. And the camera turns, and you see the monitor, and it is a small computer monitor. And I remember thinking, wow, we have come a long way in 16 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure when this movie came out, though they're kind of living, in lower class housing.
Right.
That was probably a pretty nice gaming.
I mean, he had like a chair with remote controls, like in the arms. Like I feel like Dave probably spent most of his money on gaming equipment.
Yeah, and piercings.
And piercings.
And hospital bills.
Yes, that's true.
That came later.
Although Frank did leave him some money, so maybe they can pay the bills.
That
with
is true.
The cash that he left them.
That is true.
I did think it was interesting that Frank Castle would move into a place.
Yes.
With other people.
Well, like no, my daughter brought up. She was like, "Wasn't he rich?"
Maybe he was.
And I was like, "Well, they were having a family reunion in Puerto Rico."
Yeah. Well, it seemed like his dad, played by
Right.
Roy Scheider, which we didn't talk about that. They were living down there.
Correct, but wouldn't that make his dad rich?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they probably.
And if
he
his
had that
dad
beachfront
died,
property.
If his dad died, wouldn't he have inherited?
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But I would also assume that an undercover FBI agent is making decent money.
Decent money. I mean, he had a decent house in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. So my daughter was like, "Why is he living there?"
I just assumed he wanted like a place where people couldn't really find him, but he also needed a place where he could kind of do his upgrades to like his car and his weapons and all, and a place to store his weapons and stuff. And so it's like, to me it seems like he should have had like a bat cave, that was like an abandoned, and I mean that's essentially what the building looked like too. It looked like an abandoned factory or warehouse or something. But the fact that he had 3 other people living in that building just seemed odd to me. Like I don't know. Did he have to apply for that apartment? Did they have to do like a credit check and stuff?
They're like, "Aren't you dead?"
He just shoots him, takes his apartment. And obviously, it's one of those things, like in the comics, the Punisher can always have like the inner monologue, and we can read those, that text and everything. But in movies, you always have to have somebody to talk to. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he was given not roommates, but neighbors, because I feel like they needed him to have some human interaction and people to talk to and whatnot.
You're right.
So,
but it also worked out because it was a challenge for Castle to overcome his desire for seclusion and antisocial behavior. So it was interesting conflict there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it worked. It's just one of those things where I was like, it just seemed strange for him to choose that place with other people there as his.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all watching him, like wondering what he's doing, and then when he's torturing Mickey in his apartment, I guess they're all like, "Should we call the cops?" I did think that was funny, and that's, they were like, "No, let's let him work it out or whatever." I like that. I did write a note
the guy
about,
was like, "He's killing someone," and then the other guy was like, "We're next," or something to that degree. Like, let's just leave him alone.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote a note about him torturing Mickey, if you can call it torturing. He shows him the blowtorch, says it's like 2,000 degrees, and that it's actually so hot that you won't feel pain. You'll just feel cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that scene. I think it was clever and everything.
Yeah,
however, he's like jabbing him with that popsicle, and I was like, that popsicle is hard. Like you would think that he would know that it's not a blowtorch hitting him in the back, because he's being
I don't know, man.
stabbed with a popsicle.
If you're hanging upside down,
you hear the meat
and put there by this guy that is a psycho, like, and he tells you you're gonna feel cold. I'm pretty sure the second I felt cold, I would be like, "He's burning me."
Maybe you're right. I just wrote that down. Like, it made sense if he like kind of almost slowly touched him or like lightly touched him, and moved it around or something. But the fact that he was just like poking him with it, I was like, I feel like he would be able to tell that that's not a blowtorch. But you're right. Maybe he was just so freaked out he's not really paying attention to it.
But that whole scene was
it's great.
Yeah, it was good.
And it was nice to see, it's like, it kind of shows too that the Punisher has somewhat of a conscience. He's not going to just torture everybody for the sake of it or whatever. So.
Right.
And he obviously, I think, knew that Mickey was such a low level person that he didn't really have anything to do with the murder of his family. So, but I like that he is like, and you work for me now. Like, you're gonna give me all the information I need for about the Saints and everything. And so yeah, that's a good scene. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, I definitely did too. When do they invite him over?
It's after that. It's before the Russian comes.
Yes, it's like the same, because he leaves the party and then
the Russian shows up.
Yeah.
He's like, he has like a moment with Rebecca Romaine where they get kind of close. They almost kiss, and then he's like, I can't do this. And he goes to his apartment, takes a long swig of Jack Daniels or whatever it is he's drinking. And, or maybe it was Wild Turkey. Anyway. And then,
yeah, it was Wild Turkey.
And then he's like, I'm going to go back to he seems like he's about to go back to the party. Opens the door, and there's the Russian.
Well, someone knocks on his door.
Oh, someone knocks?
Yeah, and he thinks it's her, and he puts away his gun because he's always been so paranoid where he gets his gun, and then he's like...
Anytime somebody knocks, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, well, these guys are my friends, and he's like, and I just came from there, and, I know it's them, so I'll just put my gun away, and wrong time.
Yep. That was I remember really liking the Russian fight scene in the theaters. And I remember thinking it went on for a long time. Watching it now, I didn't think it was too long or anything. Not that I thought it was too long originally, but I just remember thinking, like, that was quite the fight scene.
It was. And it kind of reminded, I think it could have been intentional, but it kind of had like a classic Indiana Jones kind of style fight.
It did, yeah. Indiana Jones is always fighting somebody much bigger than him.
And just getting the crap beat out of him.
Yeah.
And somehow manages to pull through.
That was actually another note I wrote, was that I loved we see him setting up all these kind of traps in his apartment. Like when he first moves in, he's got the grenade under the sink. He's got the gun that like pops out when he slams the desk. So it's very kind of, Home Alone-ish, where we see all the traps being set up. But then in this movie, I loved that none of them work.
Right. But it was so satisfying to see him, especially to me. It was the one under the table when he hits it and the gun comes out, and you're like, there it is, perfect time, and then he smashes the barrel.
The barrel. I love that, and I love when he throws the grenade out the door, and the Russian just hits it right back in the room. So yeah, I thought it was a kind of a clever way to do that, where we see all those set up, and then we see him using them, but they just don't work out the way he wanted them to.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that was cool. I did question if they knew where to send the Russian, why they didn't just go there themselves. But then Will Patton's character, Quentin, and a few of his guys
they
show up after the Russian. So it just seemed interesting to me that it's like, if Howard Saint knew where he was living, why hadn't they ambushed him before? But I never really got an answer to that, other than the fact that they do show up. And that's when they torture Ben Foster's character, Dave, pull out his piercings and whatnot. Before we move on, though, Kevin Nash. Do you know the other movie, Kevin Nash? He's been in quite a few movies now, but prior to this, the other movie that Kevin Nash was in?
Fight Club?
That's a good guess, but no. His first credit, according to IMDb, was Super Shredder in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. Yep.
Okay.
After that, he, according to IMDb, I don't really see many other credits. He did like a couple TV shows, Swamp Thing and whatnot. But he did, he went into wrestling, so he did nothing but wrestling for a while. And then I think he did this movie. And then he's been in a few things since then. But yeah, apparently he used to have long hair. One of the trivia facts that I read about this movie was he used to have long hair, and he had to cut it for this movie. And so in order to explain him cutting his hair for his wrestling job, they did a match where he bet that he would win the match, and if he lost, he would cut his hair. And so then he ended up losing the match, and he cut his hair.
Of course he lost.
I was not Did you watch wrestling when you were younger or anything?
No.
No, I didn't either.
But I remember in 8th grade, when I was in 8th grade, it was huge.
Yeah.
Like
My brother got into it for a while, and I would watch some. I don't know if you call them episodes. I guess I would watch some
fights
with him, and that was back when like The Rock was pretty popular. Goldberg was on it.
Right.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
But I don't really
remember DDP? Diamond
I do remember. Yeah, I remember him.
And Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
He was kind of in his comeback time then, because that was when
he was a villain, right?
NWO was a thing. Sting,
Triple H.
I
do remember Sting.
The Undertaker.
So I saw a little bit, and I vaguely remember Kevin Nash.
I recognize his name, but I don't remember like what his persona was.
Right. But he's good in this. I mean, he doesn't have any dialogue. He's literally just there for the fight scene and then gets killed off. But he's cool as the Russian. I am again, we didn't read the Punisher comics, but I meant to look this up. I assume the Russian is a character from the comics because he's got that very distinct, white and red shirt and everything.
Right.
Like he looks like that's probably what that character always wore in the comics and everything.
Well, you know what's when he burns his face, I was like, did he just become Jigsaw?
Oh, interesting.
Because like Jigsaw's the only
Punisher
villain I know. Yeah, exactly. But obviously he doesn't because he died. So,
I didn't even know about Jigsaw. I was introduced to Jigsaw with the next Punisher movie that came out called Punisher Warzone.
I only knew about Jigsaw because of the Nintendo video game.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked about this movie when it came out, and I think this was in the trailer, but I thought it was really cool because, we've talked about how what we knew about Punisher was he had a skull and he was a regular human, but he used guns. And I don't think I'd ever seen Punisher use anything other than guns. And so when he first shows up at Howard Saint's house and he's got a bow and arrow, I was like, oh, that's cool. It's just cool seeing him use a bow and arrow rather than just coming in guns blazing,
My daughter was like, is he supposed to be Red Robin? And I was like, you mean Robin Hood? And she was like, yeah. And then she was like, isn't that the superhero? And I was like, wait a minute, you mean Hawkeye? Because I was sticking with Marvel. And I was like, unless you mean Green Arrow. And she's like, yeah.
Then she just got all confused.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Robin Hood, the superhero.
Red Robin is what she started.
Red Robin. Which there is a Red Robin.
That's right. Burgers. I've never had one of those.
Well, there's also a character called Red Robin in DC, I believe.
Oh, is there?
I think so. I'm gonna look it up. But
interesting.
But I think I've been to Red Robin the restaurant once maybe.
That doesn't sound too promising. Speaking of
I don't
which,
recall
I
it being
had
anything
an
special.
Amazing Philly cheesesteak today. But I just thought I'd share that. It's a mom and pop shop, so
okay.
Yeah, it's in Dawsonville, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nobody listening to this is gonna get this. Well, maybe there might still be restaurants somewhere on the East Coast somewhere, but you remember Bellacino's?
Oh, dude! So the Philly cheesesteak I ate today reminded me of the seafood grinder that I would get every time, and I want that so bad.
I miss Bellacino's really badly.
Can someone that's close to a Bellacino's just
ship us a sandwich?
Ship us a sandwich, please. Because there used to be one 10 minutes from me, and now I think the closest one is in South Carolina or North Carolina or something.
Wherever it is, I need to look up where the closest one is because.
Oh, you know where I think it is West Virginia, and I think I told you that because you went there not too long ago, and I thought I told you that there was like a Bellacino's.
I didn't have my own car when I was in West Virginia, but if I had, I would have probably hunted it down. But if there is one in North Carolina, my wife has friends in North Carolina, so maybe next time we go up there.
Well, I have family in West Virginia because that's where I was born. So if I'm right about it being in West Virginia, I've got to stop there again because, and if they don't have that seafood grinder,
they just
I might turn around and walk out.
Yeah, I was gonna say just leave. For just for reference, so people kind of understand what we're talking about. Bellacino's is obviously a sandwich shop that used to be close to where we lived, and it was actually really close to where we went to college. So we'd get out of class and we'd go to Bellacino's and get sandwiches there, and it was incredible. And it was almost, it was like we went there constantly. And when we stopped going there is probably why it closed down.
Maybe. I'm sure we definitely helped keep him in business to some degree. But Brody showed us that place. He introduced us. Thanks, Brody.
Back to the movie. Back to the Punisher. And now that we've talked about sandwiches, I think that's the first time on the podcast where we've gotten sidetracked by talking about food. But
which is surprising because I'm a big food person. I do like my food.
I liked the whole final battle, if you want to call it that. I don't know what else to call it. Final action scene of him infiltrating Howard Saint's home and taking out all the bad guys and eventually taking out Howard Saint himself. What did you think about that whole scene?
I loved the end with him showing, he's like, I made you kill your best friend.
Right.
And it was the pictures, and then he did the earring. And he's like, I made you kill your wife. Like, that was just, it was dark, but it was so good and satisfying.
Yeah. It's also dark right before that happens. Punisher is kind of stalking Howard Payne, and Howard goes, "You killed my son." And then there's an explosion that goes off in the background. You even hear like a guy screaming. And then Frank Castle goes, "Both of them." And you're just like, dang.
Yeah. But the reveal, he like leaves him alive and just shoves it in his face. He's like, everything that you are paranoid about was me. Mm-hmm. I did all that. And it wasn't even real.
Yeah. And then he attaches Howard Saint to a car.
He does.
And attaches a bomb to the car, I believe.
That was a bit sadistic.
A little bit. That's the one part of the movie that I'm not a huge fan of, is when you see, the bird's eye view of after all the cars explode, right, and it's in the shape of the skull.
Right.
I was like, it reminded me, remember that scene in Daredevil?
Yes.
Where they throw the lighter down, it's the double D?
Yeah.
I was like, that must have been like kind of a popular thing to do in early 2000s movies, was have the flames be like a symbol. I bet if we had a Batman movie that came out in like 2002, it would have been, the bat symbol in flames or something, Although we technically did get that in Dark Knight Rises. Doesn't he do the bat,
in a building or something?
Yeah, it's like on the side of a building or something.
Yeah,
you see the bat symbol right. In flames.
Yep, that sounds familiar.
So yeah, it's it's not, this movie I wouldn't say is a great movie, but it's an entertaining movie. It was a good Punisher movie.
It's a well done movie.
Yeah.
And it definitely holds up better than you would expect.
It did. I agree with that. I didn't.
And it's better than who was in the first one?
Dolph Lundgren.
Yes, definitely better than that one.
I would agree with you. You haven't seen the Punisher Warzone, have you?
I have not.
So I'd be curious to get your opinion on that.
I've heard pretty bad things about it.
I will say this. I was going to save this for when we do that, but who knows when we'll get around to it. I hated it the first time I saw it. But then I would listen to a podcast with the director and Patton Oswalt, actually. And listening to them talk about it, I kind of realized the movie's not meant to really be taken super seriously. It's supposed to be a little bit over the top. It's like kind of ultra-violent type of thing. And going back and rewatching it with kind of that mindset, I did enjoy it a lot more. However, I haven't seen it in a while, so my opinion on it might change. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
But I'd be curious to see what you think.
Well, that's interesting that they did that, because this movie was definitely supposed to be taken seriously.
Yeah, it was, absolutely.
And pretty sure 95 or more percent of the people that had seen this and then watched Warzone was kind of, even though it wasn't Thomas Jane,
Felt like it was a sequel.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I felt first time watching it. I mean, it is a completely different movie than this. I mean, just even based off of aesthetics, like it's not Tom Jane. It's Ray Stevenson, I believe. And he's got like a different kind of get up. He doesn't look anything like Tom Jane looked in this movie. The lighting in the movie's different, it's they were trying to set themselves apart from this film, but you're right. It came out only I think 4 years after this movie. So I mean it seemed to it didn't really come across as being like a reboot or anything. It felt like a sequel, or at least that's what the marketing made it seem like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of sequels, actually, have you watched the short film called Punisher Dirty Laundry? I think it was called.
No.
If you go on YouTube, you can check it out. Thomas Jane is in it. And it's kind of a little 10-minute movie that you could consider a little 10-minute sequel to this film. And it's pretty good. I like it a lot. I watched it today.
When did it come out?
I'd seen it before. Let me look. 2012. It came out in 2012.
Okay.
And it was just like an online short film that they made. But it's pretty good. And the only thing I don't like about it, it was 2012, 8 years ago, and it was made for the internet short film, but they go a little heavy on the digital blood, and that doesn't age well, in my opinion. I understand like the appeal of that when it first kind of came out. They were like, oh, we can just add in all the blood later, and we won't have to do nearly as much prosthetic or practical effects with getting everybody messy and everything. But it just doesn't look as good. But anyway, it's a cool little 10-minute film. So yeah, you should check it out. It used the music, and like I said, I watched it today, and I had seen it before, but I hadn't watched it in a while. And I don't remember them doing this, but it used the music from The Dark Knight, at least the one I watched today.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that threw me off a little bit, but it's a cool little movie. Cool little short film. Definitely worth watching.
Cool.
And it does make me wish that we had gotten a sequel with Thomas Jane.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been cool. But John Bernthal played the Punisher, like I said, in Daredevil, and he was really good. It would be cool if we ever got like a Punisher movie with him. That being said, I haven't seen the TV show, so maybe the series felt like a long movie. I don't know, but
right. What was the reception for that?
I don't recall
the spinoff, because there was only one season, wasn't there?
There was only one season, and then Netflix canceled like all of the Marvel shows after that. So Daredevil got a third season, but then, well, I think a few of them got third seasons, but I think they canceled like all of them except Jessica Jones, and then that one got canceled eventually too.
Was that after the Disney purchase?
I believe so.
Wonder if that had anything to do with it, though.
Could be.
Because I'm sure they were paying royalties to Disney, and I bet they weren't cheap. Especially with Disney probably at that time was starting to plan Disney Plus.
Right. It'd be cool if they could revive those shows, even if it was for Disney Plus rather than Netflix, Because I really even though I haven't seen the third season, I really like the Daredevil show. It's a really good show. But anyway.
You want to rate?
Yeah, let's go. Well, you can go first this time. What would you give this movie?
I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars out of 5.
I was leaning towards 3. I was kind of was in the same boat you were in previous episodes where you're kind of in between. I'm in between 3 and 3.5, so I was actually leaning towards 3 stars for this.
Okay.
So yeah, but like I said, good, decent, entertaining movie. Not didn't blow me away or anything, but
right. But it didn't disappoint.
It didn't disappoint either. No, I didn't go. I wasn't like, oh my god, how much longer of this movie is there?
Yeah, like there was nothing super eye rolly except, like you mentioned, the fiery skull at the end. But even that wasn't like super eye rolly.
Right? No, it wasn't terrible by any means.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty good movie. I agree. 3. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm leaning in between 3 and 3.5, but I guess I'm leaning a little bit more towards 3.
Okay. Cool.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about The Punisher. You can let us know by leaving a comment on our website, www.cinemaheroes.com. You can leave a comment on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. You can leave a comment on this video, of course, on YouTube. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate that, of course. And you can also tweet at us on Twitter, @CinemaHeroes. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know if we are way off base on this movie or whatever. Just reach out.
And we'd also love to receive shipped Bellacino grinders. Yes.
That's right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.